Well, friends, how are you doing? Day 1923. I'm currently at the Rio Theater and just finished watching the screening of Shining Light. It's a documentary about mother-daughter's journey from Vietnam, being one of the boat people, being rescued, her being born on a boat, being airlifted. Oh my gosh! And some of the people that were instrumental in helping the Vietnamese come over and settle into Canada. So they're just starting the Q&A right now. I just thought I'd just bring you in and hopefully hear some of the stories and what was going on. Okay. So Vietnamese Canadian legacy.
I really want to congratulate everyone.
Some of the sponsors.
We want to have an opportunity to speak with you. So we're going to do a brief question and answer.
And this is Rio Theater, right? Let's go.
We'll make sure that people have a chance to ask questions of the people on stage. And we're going to bring Gary and Andy back up as well so that you can ask them questions. I want to thank Andy for the welcome and also Tanganay for that beautiful opening prayer. Thank you so much. And Gary for the historical context. Just so easy for us to forget where we came from. And to have that thoughtful, clear, descriptive opening was really, really wonderful. So thank you so much. All of you, had the opportunity to meet An Vu, sitting right here beside me. And you also got to meet Margaret Tevitt, who is somebody who's very dear to my heart, and we're so fortunate to have as a member of this little community in Vancouver. So a round of applause for Margaret. Really, two of the lights in this film. It's also wonderful to have Jessica Nguyen join us on this panel. She is a young second-generation Vietnamese Canadian here to reflect on her experience of the film and the ripple that the film is bringing into her beautiful young life. So welcome. Thank you for being here. And of course, the man on the end of our panel is no stranger if you have been in and around Vancouver for the last, 40 years, in and around refugee and immigrant conversations. Chris Friesen from the Immigrant Services Society of British Columbia. So I've warned our panelists that I wanted to begin by having them reflect on the film and just make opening comments as they see fit. So I would, of course, like to begin with Anna.
It's funny, everyone hear me? Okay. Every time I watch the film, I still get emotional. Even though it's been, 50 years, everyone knows how old I am now. But I keep uncovering more and more of the story. It's not just my story, I find out someone else's story. Margaret found someone who was a support actor who helped disembark all the passengers of the ship. And so I reached out to him. His name's Larry Roberts, and now he's on my Christmas list. So it's just really amazing. There's another facet of the story. It's just really so amazing and complex.
Was it easy for you to say yes to participating in this?
My mother was conflicted. It was easy for me because I felt that because she didn't want to talk about it, I felt it was even more important to talk about it. So you can learn, and for the other generations to learn. And it's beyond just Vietnam, right? Or Vietnamese. It's so relevant right now.
Absolutely. Margaret, to see yourself as a 26-year-old up on the screen and to make this link into this wee baby girl who's now a grown contributing member of society, how must that be for you to watch this film?
Every time I watch it, I think as Howard Jones says, for us it was a job we were sent to do. And we did it, and we were happy to do it, glad to be able to make a contribution. But then we moved on to another posting, another job, and we did it there. And 50 years later, to see it come back and to have met An and Mui again 50 years later, where we were then, because Mui and I are about the same age, so we were both in our 20s at the time. We're now both, whatever 20 plus 50 is. And so it was really emotional doing the filmmaking to his son Max and the sound guy Sam, and to come together and to realize, okay, 50 years ago we were in a rough refugee camp, all of us, together, just surviving in terms of Moy and your brother and you, and 50 years later, there's Moy with her pharmacies, her practice. There's An, really successful e-commerce designer, entrepreneur. And now I've got two girls of the same age. So yeah, it's emotional, it brings back memories, and what was just a job to do at the time then becomes, okay, that was really important for me as a person. It was really important for Canadian society, and I think it's made it possible for Canada to really progress to where we are.
I wanted to add that the coordinates in the SOS telegrams were wrong. And so it took the Danish ship an extra 3 hours to find us. The helicopters only had enough fuel for 2.5 hours, because quenching takes a lot of fuel. And the rescue took 2 hours, 14 minutes.
Whoa.
When we met on the phone the other day, An just said it's actually a wonder that she is here when you think about all the things that could have been in the way too. So I keep wanting to pinch you. Is she real? Is she real? Did this actually? It's an incredible story. So many coincidences that happened to make it possible. Jessica, as a young Vietnamese Canadian who, of course, was aware, but maybe not in a detailed way is aware of the story, what was it like for you to watch this film?
I think Margaret can say it best. She had to console me because I was in a little bit of tears trying to hold back. And I think, like many people in this audience, it was profoundly emotional for me. And I had shared this with the panel in the past, is that this whole experience of being asked to be on this panel really impacted my life in a deeper way. And it really showed me the power of storytelling, because my dad is also someone who never wanted to talk about it, so I never actually understood his story or really knew about his story. He always kind of was very quiet about it. Like, you can tell that if I continued, there might be some anger out of it, so I never pushed growing up when I asked about it, and I would hear tidbits from my aunts and uncles, but never really fully grasp it. So when Andy asked me to go on this panel, I had told my dad about it, and I could see a little spark in his eye, like he wanted to say something, but then he immediately kind of shied away. And I could tell that there was a lot of pain, and he maybe wasn't ready to open up at that time. So a few weeks later, I met Margaret, and she told me that she was one of those people sitting across all these Vietnamese people approving whether or not they can come. And I was like, I have to know if my dad was one of those people, because he was also in Hong Kong, and I knew that. So I had texted him right then and there and said, Dad, I would really want to learn about your story. I'm doing this panel, like I mentioned. I'm sitting with this woman. I just really want to know if she was the one who, allowed you to come to Canada, because I need to thank her, because I wouldn't have the life, I wouldn't have the career, I wouldn't be living the Canadian dream without that. So I reached out, and then he texted me back and was open to sharing. So we set up a call, and he shared me his story. So through the ripple of, you and your mom sharing your story, I got to connect a lot more with my Vietnamese heritage and my dad, and really understand it. So through it all, I really got to see how important it is to continue sharing your story and letting people know about it. Yeah.
Somebody in the film said service, courage, love, and human connection. It's what it's all about, and he certainly brought that into sharp focus.
Yeah.
How was he when he started to tell his story?
It was very brief. He was like, well, I came to Canada in 1979. And then I was like, what was the journey like? I kept asking questions. And there's a lot of hesitation, because I can see that maybe he wasn't ready and he hasn't fully processed the experience himself. And he was in one of the refugee camps that was originally a prison camp, so it was a lot, I think, harder. And he was only about 10 at that time. And he had went with just his cousin, and then he had lost his cousin on the journey there. So I think there's a lot of trauma, and I'm getting a little bit of stories here and there, and I try to meet him at his pace and his comfort. But it's really made me understand how much sacrifice and how resilient and how amazing my father is. And one thing I didn't expect, because I was watching this for the first time as you were, was kind of the turn of your father. And my dad sometimes is battling that, and it's difficult, but now I understand so much more why he does things, and it makes me feel a little bit more connected because I have that understanding of my father now.
Chris, I'm going to come to you now. You have such a long history of close understandings of the immigrant and refugee experience doing the work that you do. There's something singular about the experience of Vietnamese people coming to Canada. I wonder if you would reflect on that and as you think about the importance of this film.
I think the first thing that comes to mind is the triumph of the human spirit. The strength, the power, the resilience of women and young girls in particular in this migration journey. I think it's a reminder to me that while immigrants may choose to come to this country, there are many that don't. And this powerful film is an example of many stories of refugees that I've had the honor to support over the years. And it is about triumph. It is. I'm also encouraged in many ways how far as a country and support network we've come over 50 years. For those of you that may not be aware, just a block from here is Welcome Center, a new international model to support refugees built right here in East Vancouver. So, there's hope.
This story is personal for you too, in some ways.
Yes, I was trying to figure this out. Well, in a number of ways. So my parents were very actively involved in Vietnamese refugee sponsorship through their church. In 1989, I was actually contracted to organize the 10th anniversary of the Vietnamese Boat People here in Vancouver. So there's lots of threads through my work that started back in '79.
It strikes me how many people had to say yes to make any of this possible. With the, there's 60,000 Vietnamese people who came as a result of that particular conflict, and since now we have more than 250,000 Vietnamese people living in the country. But how many individuals had to meet a moment and show up in the affirmative? When you think about that and the fragility of that, how does that affect the way that you think about this place that we're trying to create together?
Like I said in the documentary, I'm so humbled, and I still don't know why me. With that, I just take every day and appreciate it with gratitude and try to lead the best of my life, just in honor of everyone.
And do people ask you questions about that? I mean, the film is open in a number of locations now across the country. What are people wanting to talk about? What do they want to learn from you?
A lot of people share their own stories. They could come from Eastern Europe or whatever country, and the documentary really touched their heart as well. It's very hard to find, not to be emotional watching the movie, and there's so much more we can do as a country here in Canada.
We're living through a time that is really a bit fraught. Things are becoming more difficult. People don't want to share as much. There's a meanness that's sort of seeping into spaces. This film is such a reminder of the best of us. So how would you want to encourage people to think about the result if we can transcend ourselves and reach for others?
I would like for people to think, what would you like if you were in that situation? What would you like someone else to do if you were in that situation?
Margaret, you keep saying, it was just my job, it was just my job. I kind of reject that. I mean, you don't go and participate in a job like that unless you've got a heart. And unless you want to change this old world. So you actually, in that political act that you took in taking that job, did something special. So there. But as you think about and reflect on these 50 years and the tight connections you've made now with Ann and her family and your own family in this country, what do you think about as a reaching opportunity for the rest of the audience here as we contemplate how we want to be?
I think our our opportunity, and yeah, I wanted to change the world way back when I was 22. Haven't quite got there yet. Still working on it. But I think their tremendous coming together, whether it was our Prime Minister at the time, Joe Clark, who said, yes, we will take 60,000 people in 18 months from camps, you know, off the coast of Malaysia or Indonesia or Thailand. And the Canadian churches, communities, families who came together, as Chris was saying, to say, yes, we have no idea where Vietnam is. We have never met a person from Southeast Asia, and we are happy to take a family of 5, and oh yeah, there's cousins. So, okay, we're talking about 10, 15 people, and bring them to our community of Nanaimo or bigger Saskatchewan, and help them during this time. And that support, together with the resilience and the will to survive and the will to support the family, both with them and back home, I think it was an example to ourselves and to the world at the time. And I think, as you say, there's some meanness and the fear of the other that's happening that we don't need to have. Somebody who's right now a refugee in Myanmar or South Sudan or Ukraine or Syria, these are people who we're all human beings together. They're our neighbors in a sense, whether it's thousands of kilometers away or right next door. So I think we can, all of us, can make a difference, including those who are now 20 and have 50 years of
We're all looking at you, Jessica.
I was going to say my parents were actually hiding from the Canadians at first because they think, oh my God, we are, it's so cold. And so they were worried, and they were just like, should we wait for France? Because since they're French speaking, but the Canadians just insisted and said, you have to go now. It's not safe for a newborn here. And so we were the first family to leave the refugee camps.
It's the first family.
Plus, we knew that you were people that would help make Canada. Yeah.
Because of all those skills. Amazing. Jessica, I'm thinking of the things that happen in the shadows, and how we take even in our own families with the people who are closest to us, we sort of skip things. Now that you're on this journey to sort of reconnect, what are the pieces to the puzzle that you're most curious to put back together for yourself, to kind of orient yourself and understand this part of not just your history, but the history of this place and your former country?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm really trying to uncover my dad's story. So my dad from Hong Kong, when he ended up in Hong Kong, he somehow ended up in Bigger Sask, which is crazy because there's not a community out there. It's quite small. I don't even know how big the town is.
It's this big.
He actually, he didn't take me there, but my aunt took me there to kind of learn more about the history of my family. And she said, I'm not sure where your dad's from, but we'll just drive throughout the town and find it. I'm like, drive throughout the town? This is going to take forever. It took 20 minutes to drive throughout the town and find the very house that my dad grew up on. And I'm hoping over this summer, he said that he's going to come back to Canada because he's currently residing in Vietnam. And he's going to just try to take me on the journey and explain more. And I'm hoping to meet him in Bigger and meet. I've met his sponsor family before, but really connect and hear their stories of what my dad was like growing up. I don't really know who he was. I just know him as my father and the man he is today. So just really learning who he is and the story behind him, I'm incredibly excited for because I think it'll unlock a lot for myself and for me to understand who I am. And I know he's incredibly resilient. I know he's an amazing man. So just to really see that and be in those spots that he was where he grew up, that's like what I'm most looking forward to.
We might need to send a camera crew with you.
I'm really excited to see like the farm. He talks a lot about it, and he also put himself through school at U Saskatchewan. So I really want to see his journey and how he got to those places, because I really don't know. I just know he has a university degree, which was not easy for him to achieve at that time, and do all of that. And so, yeah, I'm excited for that.
That's exciting. Wonderful. Absolutely. Chris, what about for you as somebody who's really working to tell these stories and share them? I worked at CBC for many, many years here in Vancouver and across the country. And Chris was always somebody I could reach for and say, we're seeing these headlines, things are happening elsewhere in the world. How would I go about? And he made it possible for us, as people working for your public broadcaster, to reach into communities and hear some of these stories. How do we continue to keep that flow of story and knowledge and sharing going at a time when people are in the blame game?
I think it's even more important, in developing those working relationships with journalists that are curious and asking questions and want to get deeper into the story. And that becomes, more difficult in this time of anti-immigrant and anti-refugee sentiments and the rise of right-wing populism. But we're still there and still working to tell a story. So storytelling becomes so critical, because when you can break it down to an individual and you realize through values, shared values, that we're all the same, we all want the same, this term refugee, it changes, because people have the opportunity to actually sit down and listen and actually have an exchange. So, again, it's a rough time, but there are Canadians continuing to get involved and sponsor refugees. There are volunteers that are coming to our agencies and others and supporting refugees and refugee claimants, asylum seekers, particularly rough time for them. But going back, we've come a long way, and we continue to be a guiding light to the world through the emergence of the Canada's private refugee sponsorship program. It's being replicated around the world in different countries. That's part of the uniqueness. I think that's what makes me most proud of the work that we continue to do and have been doing since the Vietnamese boat people really opened our heart as a country. Bigger, that's pretty amazing, a small town representative of Canada, though, that the Vietnamese boat people gave us the opportunity to have a national Canadian project. And it didn't matter where you were in the country, you could get involved in a very tangible, meaningful way.
It's interesting, my father's a road builder. He doesn't have an education after high school. He watches the news, he tries to keep up on things. And he's always checking up on me. And I said to him, I'm doing this panel discussion on Sunday at the Rio. So he got a kick out of that, because he grew up on Spokane Street, up the hill. But I told him what it was about, and he just paused and he said, that story changed all of us. It's been profound for this country. You heard it from Gary, representing as a sort of diplomatic corps. You've heard it from the people on the panel. It changed all of us for the better. It reminded us of who we can be. It was sort of an aspirational story. I want to know about your story before we open it up and include the audience members. We have microphones on either side, and we have microphones for those of you up in the gallery. So we can't see you at all, so you're just going to have to tap the microphone if you're up in the gallery and you want us to be paying attention. We're going to try to reach for you as quickly as we can. I'm going to invite Andy and Gary to come and join us back on the stage in case people have questions for them. But on what is the story you're hoping to tell as you put together your story?
Oh my gosh, it's a story of sheer grit and of the human spirit, of resilience, and also of human connection, right? I can't do everything on my own. I had help along the way, and it's just miracles do happen.
And you're it. You're a result of all those little miracles. Okay, so we'll turn up the lights a tiny bit in a moment, but for those of you who have questions for the panel, we're going to ask people for questions today, and we'll try to avoid statements just because we have to be mindful of time this afternoon. So we would love to hear from as many of you as possible, and we'll try to organize a speaker to address your questions so that you can get the most fulsome answer to whatever it is that you would like to share this afternoon. So the microphones are moving through we have one on this side, and we've got another volunteer who's going to take a second mic. So we'll be on either side, and then we'll have a microphone upstairs on a stand. You'll be able to find it. And we're just going to give Reese a moment. Yep, here, and then at the far end. We'll give Reese a moment to do his shuffle back to the back of house as we go. While Reese is running, the friendship that you struck up with the man in the film is really remarkable. How often do you connect, you two?
Oh, almost every day. Or on WhatsApp almost every day. I've seen him in Paris, in Montreal, and in London already.
Wow. And then this friendship that you two have got going.
And what's interesting is, sorry, I wanted to continue. When we were in Paris, it was for the first time, and he actually knew which elevator I was going to be on. He said, she's going to be on that one, and I was.
It's about like it's a kismet connection you've got going. It's Lord. And same with Margaret now. These ripples.
Yes. You never know what it means that someone who was involved in your life, how you get along, but we do pretty good.
Yeah, give each other a chance, huh? All right, there's a woman here at the front. Would you like to ask our first question this afternoon?
I'm curious because the film is so amazing and beautiful, and I would love to share it with friends and other family members, and I'm wondering what the distribution rights are and if it's going to be on YouTube or a streaming network so that we can share it with the world.
Coming. Yeah, we have to deal with distributors, and also we're still trying to market it to a major network, and we might even expand the content in the film, move it from 30 minutes to CBC side, which is about, 43 minutes plus ads?
43 or 54, you take your choice.
43, 54. So, yeah, it's still to come. And we're continuing to show it around the country and at film festivals. So we've got coming up in Quebec next month, and then the Stratford Film Festival in Ontario is asked to show it too. So the more we network, the more audience we have, the greater we can try and convince the major distributors to take it on board.
Thank you very much. I hope it gets into every history class one day across Canada.
Yes, for sure. Thank you so much. I believe there's a question on the other side, please.
Hello. Thank you so much for showing the movie today in International Women's Day. That's a good chance for me to say thank you to my wife, who worked in the refugee camp 43 years ago, that's where we met. Thank you. My question is for Gary, actually. I love the movie, and obviously the movie is amazing with the way it's produced. And dripping away on the broken boats with 256 people, and finally arrived in the Philippines after 3 months, and only 16 of us survived. And this must be a lot of story to tell. I wonder if you would like to make a movie about a story of people who are willing to die so that I can live. Thank you.
Well, the short answer to that is yes.
Tremendous courage. And when you think about the people that were trying to get into the embassy, those early photos in the documentary, and you could actually see some people stepping back and pushing other people's forward. That was one of the things when Margaret sent me a screener of this. It really shook me, and I went back and watched it again, and you just saw that generosity of spirit and that determination.
I just, your question, sir, just reminded me, when I was in Pulau Bidang, meeting 4 sisters. And the 4 sisters were together. Their parents had sold everything to buy them a spot on one of those little boats. And one of the sisters had had polio, so she had some mobility issues. But the fact that those 4 sisters were so close to each other and had survived, crossing the sea from the west coast, from Vietnam to the east coast of Malaysia, and pirates and all of that went with it. And theoretically, according to the rules, they did not constitute a nuclear family. But it was so obvious that these 4 sisters, they were just teenagers, would take care of each other, would survive, and would thrive together. Just that whole question of resilience. I have no idea where they ended up. They started out off somewhere in Canada. Just reminded me of what you just said there, sir.
Thank you so much. Another question over here.
Yes, wonderful film. Thank you so much. And one quick comment is that what it reminded me of was that when 2015 came, Canada was going to be so supportive of Syrian refugees. One of the very first communities that stepped up big time was the Vietnamese community, and they were the ones who were right there to welcome the Syrians. I wanted to ask Gary and Margaret, perhaps a slightly difficult question, but what we saw of you and your colleagues in your ability to be in those camps, to be making decisions, literally one right after the other. You were so trusted by Canadians and by our government. You had so much agency, you had so much ability to say, yes, you. All of that seemed to be so important in the way that everything happened. I'm wondering what your reflections are now in these times. How is it that your colleagues or diplomats are able to exercise that kind of agency, or can they not, in fact?
Okay, I'm now a retired public servant.
Uh-oh, look out. Here comes the truth.
Those were different times. We did not have computers. There was no internet. Any communication went to the office in Singapore via telex. So rolls of paper coming out. But we had been really well trained, and we were trusted, as you say, to make decisions. Mike Malloy, who was featured in the film, and others told us, okay, here are your resources. This is what the Prime Minister and the Cabinet Minister, Flora MacDonald, another woman, have decided, go and do it. And so we went and did it and made the decision. There were, so many people who had managed to come, just the initiative they had shown and their ability to survive. And, in Pulau Bidang, creating radio stations, creating bakeries, all of that, the translators were people from the camp. These were people that Canada should welcome. There were very few that we needed to defer for a while. These days, so much can be done via computers, via AI. But when I did the thing in Ottawa, one of the people in the audience was a 24-year-old recent Foreign Service officer who was about to be posted to Dar es Salaam to interview refugees along the east coast of Africa. So the work continues.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Could I add a comment on that?
Sure.
As Margaret said, we hired highly educated people to join the Foreign Service. We trained them well. We sent them into the field to do the job. They knew what they were supposed to do. They had the values inside them when approaching problems. In effect, we were turned loose. But over time, with the enhancement of communications, it didn't take days or weeks or months to communicate with people in the field. And more, as time developed, I started to find that the center, people in Ottawa, were starting to control messages. And in the last 15 years or so, people in Ottawa and the Prime Minister's office, and I'm retired so I can say this as well, they didn't want you or someone like me as an ambassador to go out and speak to the press, various elements of the media, to gatherings, 200-300 people, business people, without clearing messages beforehand with the center. And that cuts down initiative, it cuts down drive, it slows everything down. But in this age of control, because political parties and governments are afraid that you say the wrong thing and the whole project will get moved to the side. So we don't have as much room as we used to have in the field. That's too bad, because again, if you hire the right people, you train them well, you put them in the circumstance, they're going to do Canada proud.
And I guess that's a thing to underscore is, I guess Canadians need to make sure to articulate what it is that they value and why it is that they want us to do things a little bit differently than everybody else in the world. We have a different way of relating and trying to be there for each other. So we just need to make sure to drive that message forward. Question here, is anyone in the top row trying to reach us? I see your little heads up there. Do we have a question up in the balcony? We do. Thank you. Go for it.
Hi, I just wanted to thank you for what an incredible, just the group and everyone just putting in this, because I was born here in Canada, but my parents came over by boat and escaped in 1978 and was in Indonesia. She calls it Kuku Beach, Kuku Island. So I just really resonated with it, because being generationally born here and going through identity and understanding self, it's been just uncovering layers, as I've had two of my daughters here now as well, witnessing this film. And there's so much trauma that a lot of times when you want to ask questions, it's true, you don't really get the answers. But this film really captured a lot of that, and it was very, very emotional. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Ann or Jessica, would you like to speak to that? Or Andy, maybe?
Making the documentary actually made me understand my mother a little bit more. It was hard growing up, how she acted in certain ways, and now watching it, I can tell that she didn't really process the trauma, and I'm sure it was really hard. She just put it away, almost like a diamond necklace, and you put it away. Now I feel like she can take that diamond necklace out and wear it with pride.
Question here in the back.
I wonder if I could comment regarding the movie with regard to the specificity that Ang offered with regard to her father.
So I'm going to have to ask you to speak up just a little bit stronger if you're able.
All right. I really want to comment with regard to the specificity that Ang provided with her father. The parakeets, the example of the flower, and I wondered if Jessica had similar really telling examples that with regard to her own father, if you've been able to ask that. And my other question was with regard to Gary and to Margaret, in terms of the selection process because it appears to me that it was very heterosexist and normative. And you, Margaret, commented upon the four sisters and whether they would be considered. So I'd like to know the basis on which decisions were made. And I'd also like to know broadly, Gary, if you could say what's happening with regard to, for example, Cantonese speakers from Hong Kong who've had a choice between London and Canada with regard to their refugee status, how that's being addressed. Thank you.
These are all excellent questions, and we'll sort of maybe address one of them, and then if there's time, we can come back, because I know that there's a few other people, and we are on a fairly tight time schedule, so thank you so much. We'll make sure that you get answers to that, whether it's out in the crowd or not, we'll see. Would anyone like to address that first part of the question?
Well, let me just say, in terms of Canadian diplomats, when I joined in 1968, and you can do the math on that, we were 22 people selected from across Canada. There was one woman. So as time progressed and changed, more and more women, and I think 60% are now female. And in terms of backgrounds, I think what we're trying to do is represent the face of Canada to the world, so that everybody has an equal opportunity. Diversity, inclusion. If you've got the quality to be a Canadian diplomat, the knowledge, the stamina, the ability to be adaptable, to go into harm's way, because we're talking about a war situation here, but there's war going on as we speak in the Middle East and Ukraine, and our diplomats are put into those circumstances, and you have to be able to deal with it, because an ambassador is like the captain of a ship. When I was in Indonesia in 1998, we had to evacuate all Canadians, and you have to stay around and organize the evacuation. The last person, like the captain of a ship, make sure everybody is out and safe. So over time, the makeup of the Foreign Service has come to reflect the nature of Canadian society as it is today.
Thank you. I think we'll move along because we're just about out of time. I see another question in the gallery, and there's a question up front here. So maybe I'll come to the front first. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. As I grew up in Vietnam, I know about the situations of all our Vietnamese and even the boat people went through. So I really appreciate that our Canadian government that really at the very moment come out to help all of us. And as I see today, 7 of you on the panel seems to be a godsend angels. You are the one know about the love of human nature. You are the one that come out to help in despite of any kind of environment. I really appreciate for that. And I wonder that as we all know about our sufferings in the war, even up to today, the Agent Orange still inflict many of our Vietnamese people. So we are a group, we should keep that in mind, try to prevent the war. But as our former ambassador has said, the war is still going on. So I wonder whether we should start at this very moment, have to come out to get all together in a group of peaceful movement that stop all the war in the world for a better world tomorrow for all our human beings. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you for your words. It's an important note for us to consider, and there are these crises happening all over the world, and there's still unexploded landmines and ordinances all over Vietnam and all over Cambodia and Laos, and the work keeps getting put off, and it's people are at risk constantly. So thank you so much for the reminder, sir. It's an important one for us to consider. We don't have much time. I'm going to go to 2 more brief questions. One in the very back here, and then one up. I guess I'll do 3. Here, and then sir in the very, very back, and then here in the front area. Go for it.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, panel, and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kim Dao. I was a refugee twice, in 1954 and 1979. In 1979, I was admitted into Canada as a boat people in BC. I have 3 comments. Number 1, on the movie. In the movie, it showed that in April 1975, the communist forces patrolling the city in boots. My experience is they are in rubber sandals, shirtless, with AK-40 fully loaded.
Sorry, I'm sorry, we're having a hard time hearing. Your question is about something specific from the film?
A specific detail in the movie. In 1975, the forces were patrolling the city in boots. My experience is they are in rubber sandals. Is that correct? That's my experience.
Yeah, okay. I thank you very much for that observation. I think that with people who have experienced this in real life, these details during the war, what happened, is something that we can fully, recognize and come to value as important bits of information on history that we might not have known other from if it weren't for you commenting on that. So I thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
My second comment is on the story by the diplomat, Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith said that in 1954, the Canadian delegation, the Polish delegation, and the Indian delegation was allowed to cross North Vietnam and South Vietnam freely in order to gather the application for people who want to move to the north to the south. So my family was one of the 800,000 people moving from the north to the south in 1954 due to the application was submitted to Canadian delegation. At that time, if your application was submitted to the Polish delegation, the chance was nil. If it was submitted to the Indian delegation, the chance was 50-50.
Wow.
But if it was submitted to Canadian delegation, the chance to be further submitted was 100%.
That's incredible. Thank you so much, sir, for coming today. I'm afraid that we've got 2 more voices we're gonna hear from the group, but we will make sure to come and answer your other questions because these details are so important for us to understand. Thank you so much. Thank you. So we have a brief question up top and then one more, and then we're going to have to wrap up our Q&A today, okay? Sir, if you have a brief question.
I do. I'm a former French immersion teacher and teacher librarian. So my question has to do with how this possibly could get distributed to schools. Basically, I want a couple of specific details. Are the subtitles, is the French version available with subtitles in English, instead of vice versa? Second one is there going to be an educational package that would give potential orientation to teachers, teacher librarians, people who buy films for school districts or whatever. Okay, that's my question.
Thank you so much. The beginning of the Q&A, we had a similar question, and I think we'll put the pressure back on you, Gary. It's a funding issue, right? And trying to get it distributed in a way that people can use it for good.
Yes, there is a French version just finished working with Heritage Canada, and we will be showing that in Quebec in the coming month. So it'll be in French. We'll pick up with subtitles so that anyone who just speaks French will be able to appreciate the whole film. And the package, the education package, I mentioned hockey there in the other film. We had an education package to go into the schools because school children did watch that series, and we will be looking for funding and partners to make sure that this does go into schools, because as was asked at the very beginning, this is an important story that our young people have to know about.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Because we didn't learn this in school. My kids didn't learn it in school, and I'm sure people are sharing the same feeling. So good to put pressure in that direction. Thank you for the question. I think that I'm being arm wrestled into two more. So let's go right here. Please keep it brief. A question, please, and then the same on the other side. And then I'm going to hand the microphone back to Andy. Did you have a question on this side?
I think it's a
no. Okay, we'll go to the back. Thank you very much.
Yes, I just want to say a few words to thank you to my boss. He's the tallest person on this stage. First of all, I'm also a refugee myself, and I'm lucky to be on the other. I'm also to be a service provider to the refugee myself for almost 10 years working with the Immigrant Services Society when the office was still on Joyce Street. And Chris Prison, my tallest boss, sitting up there, he's the one who gave me that opportunity. And the film today is very emotional. That brought me back to all those memories that I had during the time, 10 years working with the Immigrant Services Society, helping countless of Vietnamese refugees coming from Hong Kong refugee camp to Canada. Thank you. That's all I want to say today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'd like each of you on the panel to have a moment to sort of have a last word on what you've heard today and what people should be thinking about as they walk out this afternoon. I'll start with you, Ron.
Well, it's just been so incredible to see how the documentary has touched everybody in different ways, whether it's for yourself or understanding your parents and other generations, and also wanting to teach future generations as well. I think it's important to get the word out. Yeah.
Those ripples keep on going. Margaret.
I think I've been impressed here. So we're sold out, as well as in Ottawa and other places, by how people have made the decision, have made the choice to come. I mean, for some people they're saying, oh, you know, that's history. But you have made the decision to come. Perhaps there's that personal connection. Or perhaps you're just thinking, okay, I want my children, I want my grandchildren, I want my friends, I want others in Canada to understand how important this has been.
Jess, what about for you? What a trip, hey? for you to be in the middle of all of this and then hear these ripples coming at you.
Yeah, it's hard to take all the feelings I'm having and capture it and deliver it in a way that makes sense to the audience, but I wanted to say thank you so much for sharing the story. Thank you to everyone for putting it together so beautifully. And I think my big takeaway for everyone, especially those in the audience who are Vietnamese, is the power of storytelling. And I think it's really important for you to share it with your kids and younger generations so that that story is honored and we can feel a part of the connection and a part of the journey. And I think for those who are my age or younger, I strongly encourage you to try to meet your parents where you're comfortable and learn about their story at the place they are, because it has been profound. It has shown me so much how much resilience that comes along the way, and it helps me connect with my parents more. So I think it's a two-way street, but I hope you see the power of storytelling and we continue to do so that the story is honored and shared, and yeah.
Thank you so much.
For me, it's the Vietnamese community really helped us as a settlement sector to evolve our services. We have much more of an understanding of the trauma and the migration journey. You know, we have now youth workers working with refugee youth. We have specialized program for refugee women. We have trauma-informed programming. So we've come a long way as a result of what we learned in working with the Vietnamese community 50 years ago.
again, this is a public policy discussion as well as an individual narrative. We need to stand up and speak out about the importance of immigration and receiving refugees into this country, particularly on the economic front, because that's where the largest criticism is coming from. So the more we can talk about the economic benefit of refugees and immigration to this country, the better off we'll be. And my last point is our policy in Canada of equality, inclusion, that this is a fabric we've created here, a welcoming country for everybody, is being challenged by our neighbor to the south. And it's very important, again, to come back to this, speak up, work together with others, keep this community strong, and keep our values in front of us, and the need to make sure that what we do in this country keeps us together.
Thank you all so much for being here and staying with us throughout the afternoon. This was incredible to listen to each of your stories. Thanks for making the trip. So appreciate this. Please tell your friends, and we'll make sure to distribute some information as we go forward to let you know how to get access to the film. I'm going to hand it over now back to Andy Pham, who welcomed us at the beginning, but also to introduce Lucy Sun from the Pacific Canada Heritage Centre. She's going to pop up, and then we'll have closing comments.
So before Lucy, I want to say, Catherine, thank you so much for moderating the panel. Thank you so much for lending us your expertise in journalism and being a moderator. Thank you so much for coming here. Thank you, sir. So Lucy Sun is one of the co-presidents of the Pacific Canada Heritage Centre Museum of Migration, and delighted to speak at this event alongside with the many supporters and volunteers. Lucy also works as a commercial litigator, works in commercial litigation. She's a lawyer in Vancouver and remains committed to increasing BIPOC representation in the legal community. So everyone, let's give Lucy a warm welcome.
And thank you everyone for being here today. PCHC MOM is so honored to be a sponsor or co-host of today's event. And I remember when Margaret first, I think, reached out to us last fall and pitched this idea, and now we're here, and that's so exciting. Some of you may be familiar with PCHC MOM. For those who aren't, we are a nonprofit charity that exists to promote a broader understanding of Canada's history through storytelling around current and historic trans-Pacific migration. So stories like the one that we heard today are sort of at the heart of our mission. And in a world where there's so many headlines of chaos and conflict and division, we want to create a space where human stories are centered and protected. If you are interested in learning more about us, I invite you to check out our website, which is pchc-mom.ca, or follow us on social media, or speak to the many directors and volunteers who are here today, and we'd love to chat, and we're always looking for more volunteers. An event like today requires so many people to come together. And on behalf of PCHC MOM, I just want to thank everyone who made this event possible today. It's been an incredible opportunity to not only watch the film today, but to hear each of your reflections and experiences on how this has shaped your life. Firstly, to our wonderful speakers and panelists, to Anne, of course, to Margaret, to Jessica, to Chris, and to Gary. We can't thank you enough for the role that you've each played in bringing this story together and in telling it with such courage and candor, and inviting us in to share that experience with you. And thank you, Anne, for traveling all the way here today to Vancouver to be here with us, to join us today. Sorry, I'm just going to flip my notes here. And yes, thank you, Catherine. Andy's already mentioned, but thank you for your thoughtful and very insightful moderation of the panel discussion. I also want to thank all of our supporters and sponsors who made today possible. As Andy has already mentioned, to our key sponsors, Samantha Nguyen, RSL Lending, Mercedes Wong, and Andy, thank you so much for your significant support of this project, and today could not have happened in the way that it did without your generosity. So thank you. And thank you to the Vietnamese Professional Association of British Columbia and the Latvia Public Education Society for partnering on this event and amplifying it so that we are able to bring all the people together here today. And we applaud the work that you continue to do to raise up Vietnamese professionals, students, and voices in British Columbia. So thank you. And I also want to say a big thank you to the organizing committee, to Andy and Margaret, and PCHC's executive director, Jasmindra, and our website lead, Ethan, who has been taking photos, who put so much time and energy in organizing this event. And we truly are the beneficiaries of all of your dedication and commitment to every step of this planning and organizing process that's brought us here today. So thank you so much. And last but not least, I also want to thank each and every one of you for joining us here today and for engaging so thoughtfully with the speakers and with the film. We're grateful that you've taken time out of your weekend to join us and to share in this experience and to tell each of your stories as well. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. I can't believe that a 30-minute movie ended up being like a 2-hour session without watching the movie. So thank you so much, everybody. I just want to say thank you to Peter Raymond, President of White Pine Pictures, Robbie Hart, President of Adobe Productions International, Director of the film, of course, Harry Smith, co-producer, story consultant, and grateful to Heritage Canada for being the funder who made the production possible. There were some volunteers here today and some mic runners. We had Cami Dow, Stella Davis from MacViet, Q Tran Huang from VPABC, and of course thank you again Jasmindra for being a great co-committee member to put this together. And of course Ethan, thank you for all your work on the website and running around taking pictures. Thank you to Claudia Friere, Kayo Devsik, Stan DeMayo down there, David Pius from PCHC MOM, and also thank you again to Stephen Nguyen for the poke cards and Edison Tran for helping people around, Mai for delivering posters, and also thank you so much to the Real Theater for keeping independent movies alive, movie theaters alive, and we love what you do, and we are all parts of this event. Okay, well that's it, folks. Thank you again, and we'll see you out there in the sunshine.
Thanks for inviting me.
Of course.
I found it on a WhatsApp group.
So
yeah, and I was like,
when's the best walk around and take photos. We'll be doing some photos up at the front.
I got a lot of things, but we'll plan. Okay. All right, friends. That is it for the Q&A. I'll get some photos and stuff. So.
That's great. We do have to kick everybody out by 3 p.m. for sure. So feel free to loiter, but not beyond 3 p.m.
Okay, anyways, I love hearing stories that connect people, help people feel that they're not alone, that other people experience the same things. So anyways, that's a snippet of the Vietnamese Boat People journey as a main central thing, but obviously there's a lot of other themes behind it. So anyways, that's it for today, my friends. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.